2 Q&A segments throughout the entire time. The very last one is going to be a very big one so that we can ask all the teams, all the questions that you can have. We have for our online Zoom participants, if you have a question during the presentations, please click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the meeting bar and just type your question away. Our team will be monitoring the Q&A window and ask the team questions when these segments come up. If by any chance you are over the phone, for our phone participants, we please submit your questions, email your questions to denvermoves@denvergov.org. The project team will attempt to respond to your questions during this meeting. If not, they will be able to provide a direct response, basically a little bit later today. If you have questions in Spanish or Vietnamese, please also submit your questions to denvermoves.org at denver.gov.org. The project team will interpret your questions in real time if possible. We also developed a West Kentucky hotline, and the telephone number is 720-865-3032. Again, if you don't mind calling that number, leave your name, your information, whatever information you want to provide, your questions, and how we can reach back to you. And the team will give you a call as soon as possible. The team will also develop a frequently asked question handout. Your questions, no matter the language, will be added to this document after the meeting. And then lastly, this meeting is also being recorded in all 3 languages. So if you know of somebody who was not able to make it to this particular meeting, please ask them to jump to the DOTI's YouTube page to view the meeting. That website address is basically bit.ly/DOTI YouTube with the DOTI, D-O-T-I, and the Y and the T in YouTube capitalized. The recording should be up in about 10 business days. Because this is a public meeting, please, obviously we're trying to go through all of this, and please be courteous and pleasant to each other throughout the next, hour and a half. So we do have a lot of projects happening between the Westwood and Atmar Park neighborhoods. As you guys can see, or have actually experienced or going through right now, we have a lot of projects being under construction right now on Federal Boulevard itself. Then on the other side on Morrison, DOTI is also working to kick off the Morrison roadway reconstruction project. DPR is working on kicking off the Morrison Rec Center project. And so we have a slew of projects that we wish that we had the time to talk to you about today. But today's meeting in particular will focus on the Kentucky and Irving Pocket Park, the intersections improvements at Kentucky and Irving, the green infrastructure improvements, the intersection murals throughout the Westwood neighborhood, safe routes to school improvements for Castro and Kepner, traffic signal improvements at Morrison and Kentucky, and then the new and improved West Kentucky buffered bike lane. So we do have a lot of projects, and sort of with that, the meeting overview, we're gonna go a little bit into, what we have heard from the community. We're gonna go into obviously the Pocket Park itself, the intersection improvements, the murals. Then we will have the first Q&A segment available. And then we're gonna jump into the sort of the transportation improvements that we're doing in the neighborhood. The traffic signal, the buffered bike lanes, and the intersections for the safe routes to school. And then we'll jump to the really chunky Q&A segment right at the very end. So please start typing your questions away. Obviously, we'll focus the Q&A, the first round of Q&As on any questions that are regarding the Pocket Park, the green infrastructure, the intersection murals, and then the second portion, the first part of it, that second portion is going to be on the buffered bike lanes and transportation improvements. And with that, let me introduce you to your lovely team. I'm Gaby Cerrado. I will be the moderator for this evening. Then we have Geneva Hooten, who is the senior planner for the buffered bike lanes. We have Heather Runkle, who's a DPR project manager for the Irving and Kentucky Pocket Park. Kayla Gilbert, She is the PM for the intersection murals. Brendan Paradise, who is the Safe Routes to School program manager. And then we have John Hausman, who's helping Geneva on the buffered bike lanes design and implementation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Geneva, who will walk us through what's happening today in Westwood and Athmar Park. Geneva?
Thanks, Gabby. And thank you everyone so much for taking the time to join us this evening. So West Kentucky, and really the area that we're looking at, is between Sheridan and Vallejo. We know that there is a lot going on here. We have schools and parks. We know that we are crossing some really tough corridors like Morrison and Federal. And we also have transit. So there's a lot of good things going on. We have some commercial areas, and mostly that this is a corridor that people are living and they're going to school, and they're spending their lives around Kentucky, and we are going to try to make it a better place to be. Next slide, please. And ultimately, we've heard a lot of things about Kentucky. And the first is that we've heard about the speeds. People have told us time and again, and the data also supports this, that there is a huge speeding problem on Kentucky. And we've heard about concerns regarding safety. We've heard that folks want to have better ways to get around where it feels more comfortable and safe, and that they would like there to be prettier places to be and to have and foster a sense of community across the board. Next slide. And so building on that, in terms of speeding, the posted speed limit for Kentucky is 25, and the prevailing speed, which is what we call the 85th percentile speed, is much higher than that. Across the corridor, we're seeing anywhere between 6 and 12 miles per hour over the speed limit as the most common speed. And we're also seeing a directionality in that speeding. So what the data is telling us is that more people are speeding eastbound as opposed to westbound. And that could be a cause of some grade changes, certainly some signal timing. And we know that there are these peaks of maximum speeds that go as high as 99 miles per hour. And that is a huge safety issue. I've heard that this can be called Killer Kentucky, that there are community groups that are saying the speeds here are a problem. We've heard you, and we know that as well. Those black numbers that you're seeing are showing the average daily traffic, which is really just telling us the number of cars that are on the street at on any day. And these volumes were taken before COVID, so we know that they are kind of the pre-COVID or normal volumes. And we're seeing the highest along the western side, as high as 4,400, around 4,000 through the middle of the corridor. And then it really drops off east of Federal, and we're only at 1,100 cars a day there. And so as you can see, the corridor certainly changes over the course of those 2 miles, but ultimately we do have a speeding issue, and the volumes are not as high as certainly other corridors like Morrison or Federal, but they're also not totally insignificant. Next slide, please. And building on that picture of what the safety is like on Kentucky, we looked at the crash data over 6 years between 2013 and 2018, and the most prevalent crash type is a rear end crash. Second to that is broadside, or what you might consider a T-bone crash. And then the other is parked motor vehicles. And these particular kinds of crashes are ones that are caused partially due to speeds. Rear end crashes happen because people have sped up and are trying to brake quickly. Broadside crashes happen when people are running red lights, and parked motor vehicle crashes are also happening due to speeds. And of particular note to us, of the 385 crashes that occurred, 6 of them included people who were either killed or seriously injured. And that's a really high number, and it's something that we look at very seriously. As part of the city's Vision Zero goal, we have a goal of reducing and eliminating all serious injuries and fatalities by the year 2030. And so anytime we have a crash that is seriously injuring or fatal, we take a close look at it and say there's probably something that needs to be done. Next slide. And last, but certainly not least, one of the other things that we've heard through the Bikeway project and from some of the other projects that are going on is that there's a desire for placemaking and to enhance the kind of neighborhood aspect and the neighborhood culture that we have throughout this corridor, and to create really beautiful places. Next slide. And Gabby, I think this one is actually back to you.
Sorry, hi everybody again. So like I mentioned, that we do have a lot of projects that are happening in the area. Particularly, we do hear a lot about Federal Boulevard, the safety issues that are happening on that side. And so we do have a robust Vision Zero sort of program implementation that we're coordinating with CDOT, RTD, Excel Energy, in order to bring this segment of Federal, basically just bringing it up to just livable, basically standards. But, you know, again, like these projects are going to sort of primarily focus, today's presentation is going to focus sort of in the core projects inside ATMAR. But if you do have questions about any of these projects, feel free to please post them in the chat and I'll be happy to talk about them. And so with that, I think we're going to head over to Heather, who's going to talk to us about the Pocket Park at Kentucky and Irving. Heather.
Hi, everybody. We are very excited over here at Denver Parks and Rec to transform the old Excel site at the corner of Irving and Kentucky into a pocket park. Geneva just spoke about placemaking, and I think that's it's going to be a really special place. Our site here is located just across from the Kettner Middle School and right on Kentucky and Irving, so it's a very busy intersection. So we think we've got lots of opportunity to improve the area and make it more usable for the community. Next slide. So the existing conditions, we have a mural around the corner of the site. We're bordered on the north side by the alley, and then we also have Irving and Kentucky, and then we have a neighborhood residence on the east side. We also have some existing Excel power lines running up and down Irving that we're hoping to get undergrounded. So that's kind of the existing conditions that we're dealing with now. We know the neighborhood was very involved in the mural and holds that very sacred. So we're excited to include art in the next phase of the project. Next slide. So the concept is to really focus on older children being across the middle school. And we heard from the community that was something that was missing. And so we've worked closely with the community. We have a great partnership with the Trust for Public Land. We've worked with Stream Landscape Architecture to develop this concept. And thinking about older kids, we really wanted to make this place active. So we're focused on, we've got a skate park area in the lower left-hand corner. Then we also have a half-court basketball court. We also heard like buffering and shade is very important. So we're using as many trees as we can to help buffer from Kentucky and also Irving. We've got some large planter areas along Irving Street, which will hold some trees and hopefully some green infrastructure. We also are hoping to be able to capture some of the storm water on site and be able to use that in a meaningful manner. And the next slide, if you want to move to the next slide, these are some concept images. So this is looking into the park, and this shows the raised concrete planters. We've got these really cool shade structures we're working on with Trust for Public Land. They also have some benches integrated and lots of seating. We're going to use lots of low water plant material within the site. Then you can see the skate feature off to the right here, and then the basketball court in the background. Next slide. And then this slide shows the basketball court and then also more seating opportunities. So this is kind of like a stadium seating area where people could sit and hang out, socialize, then also be close to the basketball court and the skate area. And then along the eastern boundary of the site, that's where we're really hoping to incorporate art into the site. Something similar to the mural on the fence right now. And so we had a $10,000 grant from former Councilman Lopez. So we're hoping to engage a local artist to be able to come up with some cool murals to put on this, this backdrop. And I think we're still working out the details how that's going to work, but we're hoping there can be a program to engage local kids to work on the art with us. I think this might be my last slide.
All right, so I think
Do I have one more? I think
Actually,
that's
it's
it.
Kayla. Oh no, the green infrastructure. We may be having technical difficulties with the PM who can talk about the green infrastructure project. Heather, by any chance, can you fill us in?
Sure.
Here, yeah, thank you.
Well, one of the challenges of the site is it's very flat. So that's one of the things we're studying in the design. But ideally, we can take the stormwater that lands on the site and we can direct it to some of these planters. So this graphic right here shows the intersection of Kentucky and Irving, and here's our park up on the northeast corner. So ideally, we'd be able to funnel that water into some of these planters and make some areas that would help slow down the water before it gets into the storm system. And these would be like planted with native plants, and they'd be able to accommodate heavy flows from the storm and really minimize the impacts on the existing storm system.
Thanks everyone. So I want to talk about our intersection mural program that we're working on here in Westwood. So my name is Kayla Gilbert and I am with DOTI in the Office of Community and Business Engagement. I am working on an intersection mural program, which is a community building initiative from our department. That's through the Community Streets program, where we use artwork to help promote neighborhood identity, bring beautify community resources, and bring attention to people that are walking or biking at community destinations like schools or parks. So our process for this is to bring together community volunteers and a professional artist to paint a mural in the street in one day. So these murals will last about 2 to 3 years, depending on snow removal, traffic, and road maintenance. And then if you go to the next slide. So our latest intersection mural you may have seen pop up right here in Westwood. So we're installing 4 intersection murals along the Westwood Via Verde route, which these projects do align with along Kentucky. This project is a partnership with Trust for Public Land, Buku West, a PSU Are Here grant from Denver Arts and Venues, and then of course the amazing Westwood residents and school communities that we've been able to work with on these projects. So on the next slide too, in August, we painted this beautiful mural at Castro Elementary. This is at Lowell and Ada, just a block off of Kentucky, where we were just talking about earlier. This was designed by a local artist, Ratha Sock, and it was installed just this past month, and features koi fish to show off the water theme of this mural. And then on the next slide, you see the brand new one that just got installed this weekend. This is our fire mural at MUNROE Elementary, and this is at Custer and Knox, which is also along the the Knox Court Bikeway. And then on the next slide, a quick sneak peek that a lot of other people haven't seen yet. This is the draft designs for our upcoming 2 murals that we'll be installing in the spring. And those will be at Cuatro Vientos Park and Westwood Park. And so you'll definitely be hearing more from us about volunteer opportunities to come help paint those murals and how they integrate with these other projects as well.
Wow, this is very exciting and very colorful, Kayla. This is pretty awesome. And so now we go into our first Q&A segment. Please don't be shy. You're all are being a little shy out there right now. Throw us your hard balls. You know, we need those tough questions out there. So we have just a general comment. Ratha is awesome, from David, who said that. Kayla says the thumbs up. I'm not sure what Ratha is. What is Ratha?
He's the artist that we've been
sorry.
working with on those murals. He's one of the local
Gotcha.
artists.
My bad. I'm sorry. Oh, that's pretty awesome. All right. So actually, we do have a question for you, Kayla, about the murals. You know, we have a question is, will the mural be replaced or retained? The person's a little confused.
I think this might be for the park mural, which might be
Oh, I'm
Heather.
sorry. Yes, you're right. Sorry. Heather,
Okay.
sorry.
Due to the material the existing mural is on, I think it would be challenging to keep it within the park. I think we've had some inquiries about donating it to the neighborhood, which I think we'd be open to. And then also doing something similar within the park that's more permanent, but can be updated as time goes by.
Gotcha. Awesome. So we do have a question regarding for Ms. Kayla. So you mentioned that the murals will last about 2 to 3 years. What kind of, I guess, general paint and maintenance does it require in order to last that long?
So we use a paint that is approved for use on streets. So it has a grittiness to it that makes sure that it has traction and keeps the intersection safe as well, regardless of the elements. And so that is basically like a pavement sealer type thing. It'll start getting dirty is the main thing, and snow removal might do a little number on it. But from the ones that we've done in the past here in Denver, they've lasted about 2 to 3 years.
Awesome.
And then road maintenance, of course, could pull those things out if we need to cut into the street for any reason.
And sorry, another follow-up for you, Kayla. So are all the murals are being done by different artists, and where are the artists, from, or how are the artists selected?
Yeah, so we are working with 3 local artists on this project to create these 4 murals. And so we selected local artists from the community, Ratha Sak. Another one is Santiago Hermio, who is a local artist here in Westwood as well and runs the D3 Arts Creative District. And then the third artist is actually myself, donating my time pro bono. I'm also a Westwood resident here in the community. So those are the 3 artists that are working on the project.
That's awesome for volunteering. Thank you for volunteering your time to create this art. That's pretty amazing. For Miss Heather, I think we only have a couple more questions, but again, please throw your questions out there. Don't be shy. For Miss Heather, so right now you showed us sort of a concept design for the park. Will there be additional public meetings that folks can participate, or is this general concept sort of already set?
I believe we will have a additional public meeting at some point. The concept is fairly set based on previous input from the community. But I think before we go all the way with construction and bidding, we definitely regroup with the neighborhood and make sure everyone's aware of where we're landing and what's going to be included and what the plan is. All
right, awesome. We do have a question about sort of are there other improvements that are happening around the area? From Christina, can we request turning signals at Federal and Kentucky? We do have a traffic signal. The signal right now at Kentucky and Federal has been funded and is right now actually it's already under design. I believe that we are actually under right-of-way acquisition. So it's going to be upgraded basically so that it can provide more safety elements like lead pedestrian intervals and other elements, and go work together with the new bike lane, that Geneva will be talking about in a little bit. We do have to double check. I do believe that that it does have turning movements that will be programmed into it, but we do have to double check on that, and we'll be posting that specific answer about the turning in our FAQ one pager that we'll be developing. Let's see, what other questions do we have that are related to, again, we're trying to keep those questions sort of related to the topics that we just saw. 1 second. I guess for the green, I guess, do we have somebody from the green infrastructure team? That is, well, all right, so never mind. We'll post that question for the Q&A in particular. But I think, right now, these are sort of the general questions that we have related about the murals, the park. I'm not seeing anything else unless somebody else is seeing something on the chat, on our chat over here. 1 second. Oh, actually, yes. So we have another one from Miss Emily. Will the community be able to help with the painting of any of the murals, whether that is on the intersections or Heather inside the park itself that haven't been completed? Mural painting used to be a community process that has drifted a bit away from what that it used to be, and will be a good way for the neighborhood to get involved again. Actually, so Miss Kayla or Miss Heather?
Yeah, so we have definitely, sure. We have definitely been including volunteers to help us create these murals. Our typical process would be to have a huge community event, and we were planning a huge kickoff for earlier this year in April at Cuatro Vientos Park. and that unfortunately got postponed. We have been trying to work just really locally with the schools, and so recruiting volunteers from the school communities that we've worked at so far. We do hope to next spring, when we do our next few murals, to be able to recruit more widely for volunteers. So you can definitely let us know how you want to hear about that. You can email me directly, calc@denvergov.org. That's calc@denvergov.org, and that's the program that I run that we're installing these murals through. And we'll definitely let you know if there are more opportunities available to volunteer with those.
And I would just echo what Kayla just said. I think we don't have an artist on board yet, so I'm not sure what the final process would be, but I think anywhere we have the opportunity to engage the neighbors and volunteers, I think that would be very beneficial, and we would welcome that.
Awesome. Actually, so we have Brian Weddington that is, I think he's actually in the participant side of things. He is one of the folks that is working on the green infrastructure planters, but I don't know how we can transfer him over to this side. But just a general question, just for folks to know, was, what are sort of the general benefits of green infrastructure planters? I mean, not just doing the traditional concrete bulb outs, but these will actually have, the ability to just have landscape, a little bit of different type of landscaping inside of it. But the intent is for water to filtrate through this, the runoff that we get from the streets to filtrate through here, in order so that it can come, match our rivers and our streams a lot cleaner than normally does. But I'm not sure how we can get him to the other side, but we'll post that, basically that official response in our Q&A. We do have another question on the chat regarding Ms. Heather. Can you tell us a little bit about the project timeline for the Pocket Park?
Sure. Our goal is to have a groundbreaking for construction next fall. And then construction, we're going to do a one build in a joint venture with DOTI and the wastewater group, which is going to include lots of great projects like some of the bump outs for safe routes to school and some other intersection improvements. So I don't have an official schedule in front of me, but that will probably take around a year or so to construct. And so I think we're looking to be all said and done probably the end of 2022. And so our goal is, with the one build, that instead of coming in with 5 different projects and disturbing everything 5 different times, we'll just be in there once and be as minimally invasive as possible and as respectful as possible.
2021, awesome. We do
2022.
Oh, 2022, I'm sorry. But
to be complete.
Complete, yes. We do have another question. Are there any plans for more green infrastructure intersections in the area, or is this sort of considered a pilot? So I do know that we're trying to incorporate green infrastructure, like the similar bulb outs that you saw through this presentation at Kentucky and Irving. We are trying to figure out ways to incorporate them along as bulb outs for the Westwood Trail, which is one of the, on the map, sorry, I don't want to go back to confuse people, but we do have the Westwood Trail that has been identified in Denver Moves Pets and Bikes as one of the priority trails, and that goes all the way from Westwood Park all the way to Atmar by Zunai Street, where the trail basically crosses the road. We're trying to figure out ways to fund so that those bump outs will be the same concept of green infrastructure planters. But again, this is sort of our kickoff of start, even though we have done larger green infrastructure elements in other parts of the city. We're slowly trying to roll them out, to the outside of the core in Denver. And we do have one more for the Westwood Trail. I just sort of mentioned the Westwood Trail. I will take that one as well. So actually, I'm sorry to confuse people, but I'm gonna go all the way. And this would be our last question before we jump back. Oh, I did way too much. Yeah, so we have the Westwood Trail is the orange line that you see, again, going from Westwood Park all the way to almost Houston Lake Park, just south of Houston Lake Park. So we have been working for a while with the community between DOTI and Parks and Rec to get this particular trail started. The The component that is basically between Hazel and Zuni, DOTI will be building. We're in the process of starting, the conversations and legal conversations with Xcel Energy. This entire segment, the majority of the segment is actually owned by Xcel Energy. So we do need their permission to build anything on their land. So we have started that process to discussions with Xcel Energy so that we can build a 10-foot sidewalk. We're calling it a sidewalk, but it's a shared use path. It's wide enough for a shared use path between Hazel and Zuni, basically just right to the east of the Westwood neighborhood and very much into the Atmar neighborhood. Where right now that particular area does not, it's the grandfather in sidewalks that are 3 foot wide, and some areas don't have anything, but you can see the social trail basically of folks coming in through there. And so CDOT will be building a pedestrian signal, a hawk, this November at Tennessee and Federal, and DOTI will be following that with the construction of a sidewalk in this particular segment. In the meantime, also DPR is working on finalizing funding for the planning and design of the entire trail, because because it's owned by Xcel, we do need tell Xcel basically what we are going to put in their land, and we need that planning and design process with the community to be able to finalize that. The Atmar, thankfully, our Atmar friends have already sort of kicked that off, but we just need our Westwood friends to catch up to be able to provide that opportunity for them to provide that feedback. So that is a little bit of that timeline. And with that, let's jump back to the remaining of the presentation. Sorry, I'm gonna dizzy up everybody for a little bit. And there we go. Now we go to Geneva for information about our buffered bike lanes.
Thanks, Gabby. So this is a project that's going to really connect east and west of this part of town, all the way from Sheridan to Vallejo. And as I was talking about before, we know that there are a lot of really interesting land uses here with parks and schools, so many schools, and a lot of residential land use here. So lots of people who are living and working in this area. And Gabby, can you go to the next slide? And the particular bike lane project was actually recommended about 10 years ago in a citywide bike plan, excuse me, that was then updated in 2015. And this corridor was again recommended in the citywide land use and transportation integrated plan, which we call Blueprint Denver. And so we took all of those recommendations and said, okay, great, we think now is a really good time to move forward with this. And the original impetus for this was that Kentucky was going to be repaved in 2021. And then with all of these great new concrete construction projects, we are now aiming to get the concrete construction in, and we will be repaving the street in 2022. But we know how crucial all of these safety improvements are. So while the full resurfacing won't happen for another year and a half or so until 2022, we still want to make sure that this bikeway is going to be installed next year. So that was the original impetus for this, and we often try to marry any street resurfacing with an opportunity to change the way that the street looks. So back in January, we did full data collection, luckily before COVID. We had our first